Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is Friday, August 1st, and we are talking right now with Doug Upstone doing our regular divisional MLB betting update show. Right now, we're going to take a look at the AL West. Doug Upstone, thanks for being back with us.
Peter, my pleasure to be back in the AL West, where the big dogs eat.
Yeah, the AL West, an interesting division. Oakland just made a big trade. Kind of curious. We'll get your thoughts on that in a second. First, let's review your forecast from last call, and in general, they were very good. You recommended bet against Texas. Seemed like a no-brainer at the time. Turned out to be very accurate. They went 5-12 for an ROI of minus 34% since our last call. You also suggested to bet on the Angels. That was another good call. They went 11-6 plus 15% ROI since our last call. And then you said bet on Seattle, but only on the road. And they did go 3-3 on the road for a positive ROI of 5%. They went 4-7 at home for a really bad ROI of minus 37.5%. And your one not so great call was Oakland. You said bet on Oakland. They did go 9-7, but they were starting to get overvalued. The market is starting to catch up, and despite going 9-7 since our last call, they have a negative ROI of minus 7%. All right, so let's just start with Oakland. Winning record since our last call, but a negative ROI, and they just made this big trade. They get Lester, they lose Cespedes. They're still number 3 overall in the baseball money standings, plus 8%. What's your take on Oakland right now?
The one thing with Oakland, the trade aspect was very interesting because the general consensus, at least that I saw, everybody was against it, giving up Cespedes for Lester. And I was actually in the other camp saying that I think it was a great move. I think when you're in a position that to win a championship, I think you should go for it. Okay, and in order to get what you want, which is in this case they wanted Lester, a proven commodity in not only in the regular season but in the postseason, got a couple of rings on his fingers from championships. I think it was a great idea. Cespedes hit under 200 after the All-Star break last year. He hit 195 in July. I think it was a worthwhile trade. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. But you know what? When you have an opportunity to go for it, you do. Now, as far as the Oakland A's, they've been curious on the road a little bit more lately. And so I look at with them, I think you may be going to play them at home. Now, you're going to have to give up some big bucks in order to do it. So I think you have to look at some run lines. But because of their run differential that they've had throughout the season, basically running right around 1.4 to 1.6 most of the year, I think Oakland at home with their 34-17 record is outstanding. And as a favorite, they're 64-28 up plus 22 units. I still think you have to consider them as favorites and then at home.
All right, but they were kind of undervalued for most of the year, and now they kind of look like they have the profile of one of these good teams that's maybe appropriately valued or overvalued. And you start to see these teams with like a healthy winning percentage and also healthy negative units in terms of betting value. That's when the red flag starts to go up. But maybe that won't be the case for Oakland long term. Let's get though to Texas right now. Texas seemed like a no-brainer bet against for a while, and in our last call, and that was absolutely dead on. They're right now dead last in all of baseball in the money standings, minus 19% ROI on the year overall, minus 34% ROI since our last call. Do we continue to fade Texas?
Yes, I do. Even though they won 2 out of 3 against the Yankees, I think that's more of a problem for the Yankees than it is for Texas. And they're minus 100. They're minus 117 or 118 in run differential, which is the key statistic I follow in this case. They're the worst in baseball in this category. I think there's just not enough there to get excited about. Again, they're going to win some games. Not saying that. But the general trend is to continue to play against Texas, and I would not be surprised by the end of the year that they are somewhere in the minus 25 to minus 30 units for the season.
And then the LA Angels, you made some bold calls on the Angels earlier in the year. The Angels do have a history with some big names in the line of being overvalued, but you thought they'd be a good bet, and they have been winning and cashing recently, and they're currently the second most profitable team overall on the year in baseball at plus 9% ROI. So kudos to you, Doug Upstone. You said take them last time, and that was a correct pick. They went plus 15% ROI since our last call. Does that continue?
I think same thing what I just said. I think generally speaking, I think it does continue. I'm not sure they'll have that same sort of record. Obviously depends on the number of home games that they're going to get because they have been so good at home. On the road, they certainly haven't been poor, but just not as good. And it's just a matter of if their starting pitching comes through for them. That's the thing. The bullpen has been settled with Houston Street, now in there. That they have the number 2 offense. So if they get good starting pitching, I think they'll be okay. It just, again, how often they play at home and what they do there, and if they're competent on the road.
then Seattle and Houston round out the AL West, and they both had bad ROIs, minus 25%, close to 25% negative ROIs since our last video. And Seattle has an interesting trend. They've started to trend way under. They're 14-3 unders since our last call. So let's get to our forecast from the AL West. I'm not exactly sure what you're going to say here. You bet on Oakland or on the Angels, both or neither?
Between the two teams, I would say I got a number of ideas here to consider. Is that number one? Is that with Oakland, I would look to play them at home, but I would specifically look on the run line. And even that is going to be overvalued if you do the math on the equation between the money line and the run line. But I think that's going to be your better value. So I would look to do them. I would, generally speaking, I would, as I said, continue with the Angels, okay, to look to bet on them. With Seattle, I would look for them, play them on the road where they're dynamite. They're up 14 units, and look to play against them on the road. Obviously, Texas is a continual play against team. And Houston's an interesting team here, Peter. And I got a little caveat here that I can wean out here for you. You know, of their 44 victories, 23 of them have when they've come as plus 130 or more underdogs. So that's one thing to consider. And here's a real highlight for them. If they score 8 runs, which they don't often do because they only score 3.8 a game, but when they score 8 or more runs in their next game, they're 11-2 this year.
All right, so to sum up, your official calls here: bet on the Angels, bet on Oakland on the run line at home, bet against Texas, and bet on Seattle on the road, bet against Seattle at home.
You got it, Peter.
All right, thanks so much, Doug Upstone.